4 have been determined for Season 6 of the NNSCRA Duracell Cup Series. This coming Sunday, a champion going to be decided at Michigan. First time that Michigan appears as the season finale in the Duracell Cup Series. Formerly, it has always been from Seasons 1 through 5, Homestead Miami Speedway. Michigan should be very interesting, being a 2-mile speedway slash super speedway, into how it's going to play out. I can tell you that from the testing that went into determining that Michigan was going to be the season finale, we can expect to see a lot more passing, maybe, than we've seen at Homestead in seasons past. So maybe a little bit more competing for the championship than just one driver getting lucky with starting track position and being able to maintain it the entirety of the race, which, let's be perfectly honest, that's been pretty much the case in our Homestead races last couple of seasons. Yeah, pit strategy is coming to play a little bit, but not much. So hopefully, with what we've seen with Auto Club and Michigan in the past in Duracell Cup Series competition, we will see it mixing things up as far as the championship battle during the course of that race. That is, of course, going to be this coming Sunday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So be sure to tune in for that to find out who's going to be the champion. The 4 competitors moving on. We'll talk about the 4 that were eliminated in just a moment, but who had this one? 2 veterans, 2 rookies. Charles Sanford out of S3 Motorsports, Michael Norman out of Michael Norman Motorsports, the 2 representatives for the veterans, but the 2 drivers donning rookie stripes. Jack Dunnard in the 88 out of Northeast Motorsports, and Destin Bolin, the 3-time winner in his rookie season for Young Motorsports. This is, I believe, trying to remember the last year's Final Four. I believe last year there were 2 drivers out of Auto Junction Racing. Maybe I'm remembering this incorrectly, but I believe that was the case. Well, yeah, it was 2 teams out of Auto Junction Racing. The 77 team and the 78 team made it into the playoffs. This is going to be the first time in a while that we're going to actually have different drivers, different representation of different teams make it into the Final Four, and it is going to be 2 manufacturers duking it out, Norman and Bolin representing the Blue Ovals, and the Chevrolets being represented by Charles Sanford and Jack Dunnard. Also, we know that Jack Dunnard is not returning next season. Connor Breeden will be stepping behind the wheel of the 88 in the upcoming 7th season of Duracell Next Gen competition, which means Jack Dunnard could end up going out as a champion. But you've also got Michael Norman, who has been, let's face it, the most dominant driver of the playoffs. I mean, Michael ended up, he didn't have to, but he won his way into the Final Four, picking up that victory this past Sunday at Rockingham. And then he also has the victory back in the round of 12 at Lime Rock that moved him into the Elite 8. So, I mean, if you're looking at a driver right now that is the clear favorite of the 4, Michael Norman would probably have to be that driver. But for Charles Sanford, you've got S3 Motorsports looking for back-to-back championships. Kyle Matthews, Stephen Power III, and Caleb Fogler driving the 09 last year. They ended up finding the championship. So Sanford looking to make history. No team has ever won, let alone multiple championships, back-to-back championships in the Duracell Cup Series. And then you've got Destin Bolin, who I don't want to say has kind of squeaked his way into each one of these rounds, though he almost did get eliminated during the round of 12, almost didn't make it into the round of 8, but he hit that streak, as we mentioned, back during the middle portion of the season, right around the All-Star break, went to victory lane at Dodge Motordrome. He then followed up 2 weeks later at Chicagoland Speedway, and then right after the All-Star race, he ended up winning the longest race of the season at Charlotte Motor Speedway, ended up picking up 3 victories in the span of about 5 weeks. So, he's, I'm not going to say absolutely performed when the pressure is on, but when he finds a stride, when he finds a streak, he rides it, and we'll see if he may be able to, as a rookie, be a champion. We have never in the history of the Duracell Cup Series had a rookie champion. We can't really count season one because everybody at that point was a rookie. It was their first season in said series. But after that point, all of our former champions had had at least one season of Duracell Cup Series competition under their belt. Ryan Acosta, Carson Gum, Jordan Lopez. Okay, so kind of peeling back the fourth wall iron curtain. Okay, Caleb Fogler and Stephen Pollard III, I guess you could call them rookie champions, but I'm not honestly going to call it that because season 5 was a unique situation. You had a lot of drivers that were having their first full-time season because you had so many different names having to help fill in each one of those 3 driver rides. So, yeah, okay, they could still be considered rookie champions, but I'm not really going to count that. I'm only really counting as far as a rookie champion a driver that is a single driver in a single car. So, in my opinion, and again, you can agree disagree with me. If Destin Bolin or Jack Dunner do win the championship this season, they, in my opinion, are going to be the first rookie champions of the series. But we'll have to wait and see what happens at Michigan. We're going to talk here in just a minute about the 4 drivers that got eliminated, and then we're going to be doing something a little bit special here during this podcast. I asked in the last podcast for people to leave questions in the comments and everything. We would do a Q&A. We didn't get any questions, so instead, what we're going to actually do is we're going to take the opportunity here under this podcast. We are going to put together the 20 race schedule for the upcoming Duracell Ultra Light Series. That is going to be the secondary series, kind of the under series to the Duracell Next Gen Cup Series next year. A lot of drivers. I believe we've currently got about 21, 22 drivers that are going to be running full time in said series. They will be on and off trying to qualify for Duracell Next Gen races as well in part time capacity, but whoever ends up winning the championship in the Duracell Ultra Light Series is going to get a guaranteed ride, kind of like what we did with the showcase races this season, and Will Goss clinching that championship. We're going to be basically doing the same thing where the champion of the Duracell Ultra Light Series is going to get a guaranteed ride in Season 8 of Duracell Next Gen Cup Series competition, and you guys are going to get to be able to put in your input of what races you think should be placed on there. We may add some in from the current next gen schedule for next year. We may add in some entirely different racetracks. We will find out. I, for some reason, was getting a phone call, and I'm not sure if I was supposed to be getting that phone call or not. So hold on. All right, so let's talk real quickly here now about the 4 drivers that are not moving on to the final 4 to compete for the championship, and a few of them a little bit surprising, a little bit surprising for sure, but definitely nothing to be ashamed of with the seasons they were able to put together. Let's start first with Laura Chung. Laura Chung was one of 3 rookies that advanced into the round of 8, along with Bolin and Dunnard, who have advanced into the Final 4. Laura Chung, career year, that win at Watkins Glen. The move to Auto Junction Racing was huge for her. Remember, we hadn't seen Laura Chung since back in Season 4, I believe it was, when we had the non-charter system, and she drove for Mills Motorsports. Made a handful of starts as a non-charter entry. Really impressed then. We even had this past year at Daytona to open up the season during Speed Weeks. Dylan Poteet saying expected a lot of good things out of Laura Chung, and she has proven that she definitely has what it takes to be able to be in Auto Junction Racing car. Auto Junction Racing, I'm gonna be perfectly honest with you, has been the team that has with also Haas Racing. I'm going to throw them in there as well. But those two teams, they've kept Toyota alive in the Duracell Cup Series. Toyota has been vastly outnumbered in the last 3 or 4 seasons. Before they were also able to add in what was DCW, then TCW Racing with Cole Baker, Tristan Allen, Will Goss, Dylan Schwallenberg, that group. Then that team ended up folding up. It's really been Haas Racing and Auto Junction Racing that have kept Toyota prevalent in the Duracell Cup Series. And you look at what they've been able to do, and I'll focus on both teams because you go back to last year. Matt Haas, Daytona 500 victory. The 8 team made it into the playoffs. Last year, you had the 77 team go to victory lane numerous times with Roberto Crown Jr. You ended up having I believe it was 2 drivers end up going to victory lane in the 78. I think Diego Yepes had a couple of victories. Ryan Butcher had a victory or two. I think he had only one victory. Diego Yepes, as I just mentioned, and then Alexander Rowe was very consistent. Both the 78 and the 77 made it into the final 4. And then you look to this season, what that entire team has been able to do, and include Haas Racing into this as well. Not exactly the best season for Noah Hendrickson, but he's hovering inside the top 25 in the point standings as a rookie. You've got Matt Haas, who went to victory lane at Chatham. Granted, it was too late for him to advance into the playoffs. He was the most consistent driver that didn't actually find victory lane during the regular season to get into the playoffs. And you look at Auto Junction Racing. Ryan Butcher, late victory in the regular season. Granted, he didn't make it past the round of 16, but now 2 victories on the season, winning as well during the playoffs at Arizona. So multi-time win season again for him. Laura Chung with the win at Watkins Glen. The kind of only outlying downside for that team was Ryan Brommer. Not really sure what's going on there with Ryan Brommer. Granted, Ryan, prior to this season, this is the first time he's driven a Toyota. He's more used to being in a Dodge back when he and Zach Rogers raced Dodge Challengers for Bulldog Motorsports. But 36 in the point standings right now for Ryan Brommer going to the season finale. There's a lot of drivers that are going to be looking for bounce back seasons. I guarantee you of that. I look at other drivers like Anthony McCurry and Dylan Pote, Benjamin Miles, Cody Lamas. Now, for some of these drivers, there was a little period of adjustment. We can kind of give Cody Lamas a pass because he spent most of his career driving for some of the bigger teams. He drove for a time for uh, uh, Michael Norman Motorsports. I blanked out there for a minute. Now he went to a single car entry with Llama Racing, not getting the equipment, not getting the help that he was used to getting in the past. And so we'll call this a period of adjustment. Maybe next season we'll end up seeing him be a little bit better. But Ryan Brommer, as mentioned, Jesse Turner. Jesse Turner has been a shocker this year. Turner has consistently been a driver that has been up in the conversation of the playoffs at least. And he is down mired 29th in the point standings going into this season finale. So looking for a bounce back season for him. Cole Deaver. Cole Deaver, ever since he joined S3 Motorsports, has been very consistent. He was a multi-time winner in his first year in season 4. This year, I don't know what it is, but while we've seen success out of the other drivers like Charles Sanford up there in the Final Four to compete for the championship, Kyle Matthews, one of the defending champions, he advanced into the round of 8, did not advance in the Final Four, but multi-time winner on the season. Even Jessica Shelton, while she's not up there in the point stand, she's at least found victory lane back at Boston a couple of weeks ago. So, uh, you know, Cole Deaver, I don't know what exactly is going on with him. We know he's going to be making a number change from the 08 over to the 3 for next season, so maybe that little bit of a change will help him in season 7. But yeah, a lot of drivers, a lot of big name drivers going to be on the comeback trail. Carson Gum, former Daytona 500, former champion, 37th in points going into this season finale. So there's a lot of drivers, a lot of big name drivers that I think you're going to be looking at next season. They are going to really be looking to get the momentum in the early going. And the bad thing for them, in a sense, is they're not going to be able to kind of look at what did we do wrong here in season 6 unless adjust it for season 7 because it's not a necessarily win you're in scenario. We already documented this a couple of podcasts ago that there is a new format for getting into the playoffs this season. Top 10 in the point standings, regardless of if they have a win or not, they're locked in. And then we have technically 6 wild card spots for drivers below the top 10 in the point standings, but at least above the top 30 in the standings cut line. Obviously, driver with the most wins in that area would get the 11th seed, and then it would go down 12th seed, 13th, 14th, 15th, and 16th for drivers that have found victory lane but are outside of the top 10. So it's an entirely different format. So drivers that didn't do well this season, while they are going to be able to maybe figure out a bit of a strategy next year, they're going to have to adapt to the new format as well. Still going to be a lot of reliance on consistency and maybe not as much stress on victories as there was in seasons past, though. If you're not going to be consistent enough, you are going to want to find victory lane at least two, maybe three times, I think, if you're going to absolutely guarantee that you're going to get one of those six wild card spots. Very limited space for drivers that do not find the consistency and are not inside the top 10 at the end of the regular season. So let's talk real quickly about the drivers that did not advance into the final four. Continuing on with Kyle Matthews, we talked just moments ago about Laura Chung. Kyle Matthews, multi-time winner on the season. He was a winner last year along with Stephen Pollard III. That's how they advanced into the playoffs. With Matthews' win, I believe it was at Auto Club. Pollard then followed it up with another victory that then locked them into the final four. Or maybe I've got that flip reversed. But nonetheless, Kyle Matthews, one of the three drivers that end up winning the championship that season. Caleb Fogler, we saw he went to victory lane this year, getting his first career win at, let me look at my notes, it was at Gateway, the first playoff race, but the consistency wasn't there for him. He is going to be 25th going into this season finale. Kyle Matthews, on the other hand, 2 trips to victory lane, 7 top 5s, and I think the biggest thing that stands out to me is 12 top 10s. That is fourth overall in top 10s, tying him with, actually, no, he's not tied. He stands alone at fourth, just behind other drivers like Charles Sanford, Matt Haas, Zachary Fitzwater, and Michael Norman. So those are some pretty good drivers to be in the same kind of top 5 class with. Drivers that have been consistent this year, a number of them making it into the playoffs. Obviously, with Matt Haas, consistent but didn't find victory lane. So for Kyle Matthews, this is one of the rarest seasons where we've seen a defending champion actually follow it up with a pretty stellar follow-up season. Right now, he is 8th in the point standings. He'll look to build off that, maybe finish top 5 in the overall season points. That's usually what a driver, when they get eliminated from one round, tries to do. They try and finish the highest possible in whatever round they were eliminated in. So for drivers that get eliminated in the round of 16, they try and finish 13th. Drivers that get eliminated in the round of 12, they try to finish 9th. And drivers that get eliminated in the round of 8, they try to finish 5th, the highest they possibly can. I think that Kyle Matthews has proved that the I call it the sophomore slump, and really that's a really bad term for it because sophomore kind of indicates it's their second season in a said series. I don't know if it should be called like the championship slump or whatever it should be called. I'm not exactly certain. Championship follow-up slump. I don't know. Maybe somebody can come up with a better coinage of a phrase for me on that because sophomore slump just I don't know why it slips off the tongue easy, but it doesn't make sense. But I think that he's kind of debunked that theory of the fact that you can win the championship one season and you can follow it up the following season. The competition is tough in the Duracell Cup Series, so that's what kind of I think leads to drivers maybe not necessarily performing what they do the season prior. But I don't know. The championship curse. I like that. I like that. I think I'm going to use that from now on. Thank you, Jack. That is, I think that makes a lot more sense. Championship curse. So, question is for Sanford, Dunner, Bolin, or Norman, whoever ends up winning the championship, do we end up talking about them having the championship curse in season 7? We'll have to wait and see. Keith Batson. Keith Batson, career year for him this year. Never had a multi-win season coming into this year. He had made the playoffs previously. I believe, if I recall correctly, that was back in season 4. I could double check on that here real quick. Don't think it was season 5 because that team struggled. Yeah, season 4. He ended up finishing 6th in overall points, 2 victories, 6 top 10s, or 6 top 5s, 9 top 10s. Compare that to this season, 2 trips to victory lane, 5 top 5s, and 10 top 10s. So, well, actually, right around the same as what he did last year. To be perfectly honest, average finishes around the same too, around 20th place. So, pretty interesting that in 3 seasons, 2 seasons, very close to each other. So I guess we can't really call it a career year. It's very close to what he did back in that season 4 performance, as I apologize for my dogs barking in the background. But I think that this is a good sign for Keith Batson and that team because they made the choice back in season 4 to then kind of dwindle down. They went to a two-car team back in season 5. They did not perform really all that well in the 39 car, but the 93 did have some good performances. William Micros going to victory lane in that car, and that team actually made it into the playoffs. But then going here into season 6 decides, okay, we're going to go back to the single car team, focus all of our efforts on the number 39, and it paid off. Some teams benefit from going just to the single car entries. Other teams benefit from being in the bigger organizations. We've seen Young Motorsports, Michael Norman Motorsports being with the bigger teams. They've performed a lot better. All the drivers involved have performed a lot better this season. S3 Motorsports, of course, a few of their drivers have performed really well also. So there is a benefit for being able to bounce information off of each other, be able to have more resources at your disposal. But I think there also is a benefit of being a single car entry, being able to put all your focus on just one thing, not spread yourself too thin. And I think Keith Batson at KB Racing Enterprises, at least 2 seasons ago in season 4 and here in season 6, has proved that. And it'll be interesting to see if they can continue that into season 7. I think that maybe the biggest surprise for me of a driver that did not advance into the Final Four would be Mitchell Collins. He did not have a stellar round of 8, but with the consistency I saw out of Mitchell Collins in both the round of 16 and the round of 12, I mean, he made it into those respective rounds very easily, was never really in the conversation of around the cut line. I thought he was going to be a lock in for the Final Four, and things just did not work out in his favor here in this round of 8. So 2 wins on the season, though, 5 top 5s, 9 top 10s. I believe I'm reading that right. No, I can make that 8 top 10s for Mitchell Collins. He's returning next season to Michael Norman Motorsports. I feel like Mitchell Collins isn't far out from being a Final Four contender. I thought it was going to be this year. Maybe it'll be next year. He's been consistent. He's been very consistent when he's run for the bigger teams. Last year was a down year for him in a effort with, I think it was James Qualls, and I want to say, I think Nathan Ormond was a part of that team in the 17 car. I'm trying to remember exactly who it was. There were so many drivers to try and keep track of, but this year I thought was going to be the year at least for him to get into the championship battle. We'll have to wait and see about next year. Is a tough break there for him. If he had advanced Michael Norman with winning this past week at Rockingham, it would have been a 50% chance for Michael Norman Motorsports to win the championship. That team has yet to win a championship here in the Duracell Cup Series. Matter of fact, as things stand right now, Charles Sanford is the only driver that has a chance of a team getting a second championship. Young Motorsports, Northeast Motorsports, and Michael Norman Motorsports have not won a championship as an organization. So Bolin, Dunnard, and Norman will be looking to do just that at Michigan this weekend. Before we get down to the, we'll call it the main event, but the big thing that we're going to do here, if you're just joining us, welcome. We're going to be in just a few moments here on this podcast. We are going to be putting together the 20 race schedule for the upcoming season of the Duracell Ultra Lights series, which will be following not completely closely, but somewhat with the Duracell Next Gen Cup Series schedule. We've already got a suggestion in there, which we will be adding on. We'll be figuring out where to put it. There'll be 7 regular season, or not 7 regular season races. There is no playoffs for the Light Series, but there will be 7 races prior to the All-Star break, 13 races after the All-Star break. And we'll be figuring out what to place where in just a few moments. Before we get to that, got a couple of news stories in regards to Season 7 of the Duracell Next Gen Cup Series. The first thing is that the Clash this year, I don't know if this, or next year in Season 7, I don't know if this was announced before, I'll make the announcement now, is switching venues from Season 1 to Season 4. The Clash was held at Daytona. Seasons 5 and 6, the Clash was held at Bowman Gray. We will be at a short track again this year, but this year, and maybe for following seasons, we will have to wait and see. We will be having the Clash held at Slinger Speedway. For those that aren't familiar, that is a Wisconsin track. It's where the Slinger Nationals are held. A big reason why we are going there is back when I was doing testing for tracks for the SRX series. Slinger was a track that I tested, and there actually is a lot of passing that goes on for position all the way through the field. I thought, this really is a place that I kind of should squirrel away in the back of my mind for maybe a future event. And then I thought, what better place to do it than a non-points event like the Clash? And so that is where the Clash is going to be taking place. We're going to have every driver that is currently trying to um, run full time in the Duracell Cup Series for next season. They will be taking part. We're going to have heats. It'll be split up, I believe, into 6 heats with the number of drivers that we have logged for next year. The heat will have their own qualifying sessions to determine the lineups for the heat races, and then we will have a certain number of drivers moving on from said heats into the main event. So that should be a wild one. Looking forward to seeing how that is. I considered putting Slinger as a points race, but since it is a short track, it doesn't field a full 42 cars. And we already have a couple of racetracks this season where we're going to be kind of dwindling down the full 42 car field. Mid Ohio Sports Course next season, I think, can only fit 39 or 40, and then Suzuka, I think, can only fit 36 or so. So because we're already kind of chopping the field a bit in a couple of races next season, I didn't want to do that for a third time. So since we know how many Slinger's able to fit, it gives an idea of how many should be in a main event race there, and subsequently we can then have the eliminations for each one of the heats to be able to determine how many cars we can have at a time for the main event. So Slinger Speedway going to be the venue for the Clash next season. Also, another thing that's going to be taking place as well. I've run down the Duracell schedule for next season, and I'll go through it again here in just a few minutes. But we're going to Daytona twice. The Daytona 500 will be run during daytime conditions, and the second Daytona race, which is during the playoffs, it is playoff race number 8, middle race of the round of 8, is going to be nighttime conditions. However, Daytona qualifying, the pole day qualifying for drivers to try and make their way into the field for the non-charter cars and everything, that will take place during the nighttime, and then that'll be followed by the first race of the season for the Duracell Ultra Light Series. Then the following day, daytime conditions for the Daytona 500. So we're playing with track conditions, playing with daytime, nighttime during the Daytona 500 weekend. So that should be a lot of fun. All right. So let's run through real quickly, kind of a refresher, because people may not have remembered it. And this will be posted in the NSRA Discord as well once we get to the end of season 6, which will of course be this Sunday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Championship on the line at Michigan. So be sure to tune in for that. And then the schedule for next season will be released for season 7. But verbally going to tell you what the schedule looks like right now. So these are the races prior to the All-Star break, races 1 through 13. Daytona, where the Daytona 500 will be, that's obviously during daytime conditions, as I mentioned. We then go to Manassas Speedway for race number 2, Las Vegas still at number 3, Pocono, race number 4, race number 5, we go to Phoenix. Jury is still out on Phoenix as to which version we're going to be running, because while I do kind of like having the dog leg on the front straightaway, the newer configuration, the AI is kind of weird when they go down there. So I don't know exactly which version of Phoenix we're going to, whether it'll be the older or the newer configuration. You'll have to stay tuned for that. North Wilkesboro Speedway was an incredible race last year. Definitely made its mark, so it's back. Race number 6 on the schedule. Indianapolis Motor Speedway, not the road course. The speedway itself is going to be at race number 7. Then we go to race number 8. Remember I mentioned there were 2 races where we're not going to necessarily be able to have a full 42-car field. This is one of them. We're going to go to the Mid-Ohio Sports Course. I believe that track can only hold 39. It may be 40, but I believe it's only 39. So there will be a little bit of a difference in the qualifying sessions for that one as well. For those that don't know, we are actually going to be having qualifying sessions the Saturday prior to these races. So extra videos, extra broadcasts is going to be coming out. But I'm pretty sure it's 39, if I recall absolutely correctly. So that will be a slight change in the qualifying uh, criteria for that particular race, and there'll be more information on that as we continue closer towards the start of Season 7. But Mid-Ohio, going to be race number 8. Texas Motor Speedway returns onto the schedule. Race number 9. Coke Zero Super Speedway also makes its return, as it'll be race number 10. Dodge Motordrome back at race 11. Darlington Raceway, going to be race number 12. That will be a throwback race. And then Chicagoland Speedway, going to be the final race of the first half of the regular season at race number 13. We then have the Duracell Open, the Duracell All-Star Race. Not confirmed if that's going to be at Charlotte or not, or if we're going to maybe go to a different venue. That still is TBA. Charlotte, however, is going to be the start of the second half of the regular season. Longest race of the season, race number 14. M&M Super Speedway comes back at race number 15. Both Coke Zero Super Speedway and M&M Super Speedway, pretty much the same track, just reskinned, but they both brought about great racing and an exciting finish. Some surprising winners last year, so they're both back on the schedule. Dover returns race number 16. Iowa Speedway going to be at race number 17. Chicago Motor Speedway at race 18. New Hampshire at race 19. New Hampshire was up for consideration of being replaced, but pretty decent race last season, so it will return. And then the second of the two kind of in the qualifying type thing, Suzuka East. Really good racetrack in terms of road course racing. The downside, it's not going to fit a full field. So um, gonna have to figure out if we're gonna have maybe some qualifying races to be able to make the main event for there. If we're just gonna do a qualifying session and just have however many it fits. I think it's 36 drivers that it can fit, but again, I'm not 100% certain on that off the top of my head. We're gonna have to figure that out. We got plenty of time before we get to that point, though. That's race number 20, though. Kentucky Speedway gonna be at race number 21. Homestead, Miami, replaced this season as the finale. Replaced next season as the finale as well. That's gonna be at number 22, though. Watkins Glen gonna be at number 23. I believe Watkins Glen is the only road course in the regular season that is returning next year. Sonoma got replaced. I believe another track, another road course got replaced. Yeah, Lime Rock got replaced, but that was during the playoffs. So that's why Mid Ohio is on the schedule. That's why Suzuka is on the schedule. Watkins Glen is the only track in the regular season, and Chatham is the only track in the playoffs for road courses that are returning next year. Although, when we get to Chatham, there is a slight difference in that. Atlanta Motor Speedway, the old Atlanta, not Atlanta Super Speedway, at race number 24. Bristol Dirt, going to be race 25. And then Auto Club Speedway, going to be race 26, where we will determine the playoff contenders. It's going to be the regular season finale. Only, I think 3 changes going to be taking place during the chase. We got Gateway coming back as the first playoff race at race 27. Chatham, race number 28, however, it is Chatham Dirt. We are going to a dirt-covered road course for next season, and it is under the lights as well. So that should be wild. Did some testing with it. It looks like it's going to be a very exciting playoff race. Nashville Super Speedway, in my opinion, I think compared to Arizona and Rockingham this season, was the best in terms of racing for an elimination race. That's coming back, race number 29. Race number 30 at Hillside, race 31, Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. That is replacing Lime Rock. Lime Rock has brought about great racing. The only problem with Lime Rock for me is there's a couple of places on the racetrack where things happen that shouldn't off of it's kind of turn 1 and 2 collective. When the cars go wide and go off into the woods or hit the steel guardrail, not exactly a fan of that. And then the contact that's made when they're off of, I don't even know what turn it is. It's the long straight after where the bus stop is. That right-hander, before you go downhill, cars make contact and slide onto the hill and sweep into oncoming traffic and everything. I'm not particularly a fan of that. So I did a little bit of testing of different road courses, seeing what would be a viable area for a replacement. Canadian Tire Motorsports Park impressed me quite a bit. I think that's going to be a really good race. It'll be making its debut on the Duracell Cup schedule as race 31. Arizona Speedway back as an elimination race at race 32. Boston International Speedway at race 33. Talladega will not be on the schedule. As mentioned, Daytona going to be coming back for a second time in the season. Nighttime conditions as the middle race of the round of 8. And then Rockingham is where we're going to be determining the final 4 for the championship, much like we did this past weekend. And then, of course, Michigan going to be back as the season finale with the championship hanging in the balance at race number 36. By the way, for those that are wondering, there is an official start date for Season 7 of Duracell Cup Series. For those that don't know, I am not going to be around during the course of the latter half of October. I'm going to be in Florida. I'm going to be in Virginia. Going to be meeting a lot of different people, a lot of friends from the Under 2003 community during the course of that time. It's going to be spanning from about October 20th to November the 2nd. So the Duracell Cup Series Season 7 season will not be starting until after that. Official start date going to be November the 10th. That is when all the Slinger Clash stuff is going to be beginning to kick off the 7th season of Duracell Next Gen Cup Series competition. November the 10th is going to be the first event, and should be exciting. Hopefully, you guys will enjoy it. A lot of different projects in the work to try and make the broadcast a little bit better, make them a little bit more immersive, and whatnot. All right, let's get to it. Let's figure out what 20 races are going to be on the Duracell Ultralight Series schedule. So, I've given you the rundown of all the tracks that the next gen Cup Series is going to be running at. 2 tracks that we know for certain are going on the schedule. Number 1, let's put it down because we know that the season's going to be starting at Daytona. It's going to be at Daytona International Speedway. Nighttime conditions going to be running uh, almost immediately after Daytona 500 qualifying. And we've had the suggestion from Jack Mitchell, Starblade125 of Armory Digital. Apparently, a new version of Armory Digital was released. I thought that they had already come out with another newer version of it, so I guess they put a newer version out of Armory Digital. Have to look into that. So we got to figure out where is that going to be placed on the schedule. Probably going to be placed somewhere in the after the All-Star break. There are no playoffs, so it really doesn't matter about putting it anywhere in terms of an elimination race because there is no elimination race. I don't think they meant the 2023 one. Wait, they made a 2023 version. I'm pretty sure there was another. Let me look real quickly in my tracks that I've got because I'm pretty sure that they came out with the original Armory Digital and then another one. Let's see, Armory Digital. Okay, I don't have that there. 2017. Yeah, I think you're right. I think they had one before 2017 though as well. So I think this is the third version of Armory Digital. If I'm not mistaken, let's see. Armory Digital, so there's the original Armory Digital and then Armory Digital Super Speedway 2017 and 2017 Night. Yeah, so this is the third variation, I guess, of Armory Digital. Okay. I didn't know that they actually came out with a newer version past the 2017 one, to be perfectly honest. So I will look into that and see if there's any differences and whatnot. Interesting. Did they just like update the MIPS on it, the look and everything? Is it the same type of track dimensions and everything? Let me see if I can find this real quickly. Oh yeah, there's 2023 edition. Overhauled with new performance improvements and texture updates. Okay. Uh, change some of the background stuff. Track service details. Track has been heavily optimized compared to the 2017 versions. However, users with lower end computers issues may still occur. Track may work fine, but no guarantees on the frames per second. Okay, so they've added in a bunch of new stuff visually, it sounds like. Okay. Oh, and this was released in August. Okay, I never actually heard about this. Interesting. All right, so yeah, I will get that and I will look into it. So where should we put this on the schedule then? Um, bearing in mind too, the Ultra Light Series cars are going to be running the same physics as the Next Gen Cup Series cars, CTS physics. So if something works with the Next Gen cars, it will probably work with the Light Series cars. Which, by the way, too, anybody watching, if you still want to run full time in the Light Series and you do not have a ride for the Next Gen Cup Series, you can. The video is still up. The signups are still open. They'll be open all season long. But if you want to be able to compete for the championship, probably better to get your sign up in now rather than later, because it'd be a heck of a lot harder to try and win a championship making only 5 starts as opposed to 20 starts. So as I'm looking down through this list, I'm going to try and look and see if there's other tracks that I can think of that I know probably the racing will be good. I should probably go on the schedule. And then, of course, with Armory Digital is not on the Next Gen Cup Series schedule, but we're putting it on the light schedule, so other tracks can be put on the light schedule that are not necessarily on the Cup Series schedule as well. Let's put the Armory Digital race at race 10. And I'm going to make the note that it is the 2023 version, just in case I forget that there was a new version that was released. So as I'm looking here at tracks that I think probably would fit very well with the type of racing that we're going to have with the light series cars, I'm looking at tracks like Las Vegas. I think would end up being a good racetrack. I think that Darlington would be good. Chicago probably would be good. Charlotte would probably be good. Dover, I'm skeptical about. Dover, I like Dover. Don't get me wrong, I love the racetrack. I just don't feel like a lot of passing takes place. There is a newer version of Dover I'm considering doing some testing with to see if it works out. But I want Dover to still be on the schedule. I just want the racing to be better. Iowa, I think, could maybe be a good track there. We could maybe, because I don't think we're going to have a huge field for the lights, we could have them go to Suzuka East as well. Uh, Homestead, yeah. Problem with Homestead is because there's not a whole lot of passing that goes on there. That's why it got replaced as the season finale. Watkins Glen, maybe. Bristol Dirt, I think, would be probably good. Gateway, potentially, could be good. Boston, I don't think there's a single type of car you could put on Boston where the racing wouldn't be good there. Probably, we're going to end the season off at Michigan. Because why would you end the season off at one place and then have it at a different place for the two respective series? Have the championships decided at the same venue. Let's see. If we want to kind of have somewhat similar followings here, we're going to be having some off weeks. Obviously, since it's 20 races for the lights cars and 36 races for the uh, cup cars. So, like, say for instance, we got Daytona. Let's say then they take a week off, and let's put Las Vegas as race number 2. So they follow the next gen cars to Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Trying to think of some other fictional tracks. Okay. I will tell you right now, Sawmill is definitely a no because the racing there is horrible. Uh, let's see. Army. So there's Michigan. If we worked our way up from the bottom, I don't know if we necessarily need to go to Daytona a second time. We've got Daytona and Armory for some super speedways already. Don't know if we need to go to Daytona a second time, really. Rockingham, I don't really think we necessarily would have to go to either. So maybe have Boston be the next to last race of the season. Arizona, Canadian, Hillside, Nashville Super Speedway definitely needs to be there. Maybe do like race 17 at Gateway. Have 4 racetracks of the next gen playoffs on the schedule. So Gateway, Nashville, Boston, and Michigan. The Miami F1 track. I have done testing at that racetrack. The bad thing about that track, first couple of corners, certain cars they just die. They go into the wall. I really considered that being one of the replacement road courses. I think it was up for consideration to replace Sonoma for season 7. If it weren't for the fact that they somehow decided to impale themselves on the walls or something there, going through I don't know if they're considered the S's or what. That was a track that I was thinking of. That was one. Coda was one, but the racing wasn't good there. What were some of the other road courses that I was testing out? Um, Laguna Seca was another one that I was looking into, but the racing wasn't particularly all that good. And I know when it comes to road course racing, you're not going to have constant passing. That's not how road course racing works. But at the same time, I want it to at least be somewhat competitive so that way it is interesting. Um, So that's why, a track like Mid Ohio, a track like Suzuka, though they don't fit a full field, they actually did, when I did some testing, they actually did have good racing. They did have occasional passing for position, not just everybody running single file, running identical lap times, snooze fest. All right, so I think that after the All Star break, I think you have to have the light cars running at Charlotte. Obviously, not as long a race as the next gen Cup Series. Let's see, M&M's, Dover, Ohio. The Pepsi Superdome, exactly the same as the Dodge Motordrome, but it's like Pepsi instead. I don't have that. No. The only variations I have of that track is obviously Dodge Motordrome and Taylor Swift was it Taylor Swift? What they call it? Taylor Swift Superdome or something like that. Um, Those are the only 2 versions I have of that particular track. I've not seen the Pepsi Superdome. But yeah, we could put that. Hmm. I'm almost wondering if maybe we end up putting that one as the same week as Coke Zero Super Speedway, so that you have the Soda Wars. Let me see if I can find that track. It's another track I didn't know existed. Oh, Digital Armory made this one as well. Oh, this is the one that's got a football field in the middle. Okay, interesting. Oh, track appears to be missing. Well, that's good. Uh, Alright, so they say it's on Armory Digital. This was 3 years ago? How did I not see this track? Let's see, tracks. Taylor Swift Superdome, Dodge Motordrome. I actually don't see it on the website. They've only got the Taylor Swift and Dodge Motordrome. Interesting. Let me look and see if see they've got pictures of it. There's a video here from Noah Sweet. Check Discord. Oh, all right, awesome. All right, thank you. Maintain a 20 to 25 car field. Okay, yeah, that's about what it looks like we're going to end up having. As of right now, let me see how many drivers we have actually signed up. I don't think we've eclipsed 25. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. We've only got 18 right now. So yeah, we can definitely fit that in there. All right, so let's put that. Appreciate you sending me the track there. Let's see. Let's put that. All right, so I don't know about having a because I'm thinking selfishly in terms of I would have to paint more race cars, but I don't know about having a Duracell lights race at Darlington as a throwback race. If we don't, then we could have uh, Pepsi Motordrome as the last race of the first half of the regular season at the same weekend as Coke Zero Super Speedway and have like the soda wars there. Because Dodge Motordrome, same difference, and then Chicagoland, we don't necessarily have to go there since we're going to Las Vegas already, and probably we're going to have another mile and a half at some point. So let's put Pepsi Superdrome or Superdome as race number 7. I think North Wilkesboro is a track that we should go to. Maybe Pocono? I don't know about Pocono. Pocono's weird. Wait, isn't there... What if during the week of Indianapolis, we had the lights cars go to IRP, Lucas Oil? Because I think Lucas Oil, if I recall correctly, when we did the SRX race, I think that was a good race. So we could have North Wilkesboro and Lucas Oil, and then maybe Mid Ohio. So we need to fill 4 slots between Vegas and Pepsi Superdome. Like I'm trying to think if there's like other tracks that we could go to that would be like in the same state, in the same vicinity. Phoenix, I don't. Phoenix is so tough because if I knew Phoenix was good, then maybe we'd have the lights cars go there. But I don't know which version of Phoenix we're gonna do. Pocono is a catch 22 because you either have a good race there or you have a really really bad race there. Got Texas there as well. There is no other Texas track that I know of for like a short track. Or is there? Let's see. Texas. Let's just do Texas racetrack. See what it comes up with. See if there's any so there's Texas Motor Speedway, obviously. Alright, what have we got? Circuit of the Americas, Texas Motor Speedway, Texas Motorplex, Heart of Texas Speedway, Rally Ready Driving School, that's Devil's Bowl Speedway, that's a dirt track. Do we have a dirt track yet for the cars? We could maybe go to Devil's Bowl? Where's Devil's Bowl at? I don't know if they made Devil's Bowl for NR or not, but maybe dirt ovals. Devil's Bowl, Texas. It's a half mile. Oh, it was made by WKC, which doesn't exactly instill me with a lot of confidence. Devil's Bowl, Texas. I'm going to download it just to see how many cars it actually fits. Okay, gonna extract the file and see. Devil's Bowl Speedway does not even have a track INI. That's interesting. Alright, let's see. Does not say how many cars it can fit. This track was tested at 95 and 105 opponent strength. Note, this is a dirt track. They are not smooth and there have been a few bumps added. Track was used or tested using GNS and CTS physics. However, there are steps for Cup, GNS, and CTS. Tweak to your liking. Oh, track supports 34 cars total. There it is. I just had to read further. 33 AI and the player. AI is set up for offline playing the track and also be used online. All dirt surface material track. It is loose. You really have to use some finesse and patience to get around the AI. Yada yada yada. Maybe this is worth considering. It fits the field size criteria, and it would be a Texas track, but not necessarily at Texas Motor Speedway. So if we were to go that route, then we could slot in North Wilkesboro, which I think, based off of this past season's Duracell Next Gen race, I think that would probably be good. And then when the Cup cars go to Indianapolis, go to Lucas Oil. And then Mid Ohio for the road course. And then Texas, same weekend, would be Devil's Bowl. Okay. That looks good. Alright, so we got Armory Digital that's slotted in there. Unless we move it based off of what else we end up having here. We'll have to wait and see. We got Devil's Bowl already, but I think Bristol Dirt definitely needs to be on the schedule. I think Auto Club needs to be on the schedule. If they came out with the Auto Club short track, that would actually be kind of cool. But And a big reason why a lot of these places we're going to are the shorter tracks is the light series schedule. The light series is gonna kind of, in an essence, be similar to what ARCA is to NASCAR Cup Series. So that's why I'm looking at a lot of these different tracks like North Wilkes, Lucas Oil, Gateway. These are tracks that you would probably see the ARCA series going to. So let's put in Auto Club there. And Bristol Dirt. So we got 5 more slots still to fill. Iowa. I'm trying to remember back to if that was a good race or not, and I'm blanking out. Let me look and see if I can find that real quickly and just see some excerpts, see if that was actually a good race or not. Oh, that's the one that's got the weird pit road where they almost impale the wall, unfortunately. Hmm. Doesn't look like there was a lot of passing there either. So I think we're going to give Iowa a miss, at least for as a double feature race. I want to tentatively put Dover on the schedule, maybe. I'm going to put Dover on there and do some testing. It may end up getting replaced, but at least for right now, just in case. Maybe they came out with a newer version of Dover. Actually, I do have a newer version of Dover that I can maybe test out and see what it's like. What version of Dover was it? It was. I thought I had a newer version of Dover. Dover 22, yeah, 2022. So maybe. So I'll put that tentatively on there. Then we've got between Dover, then we got Armory Digital after that, and between that and Bristol Dirt, we've got 4 more slots to fill. We got Iowa, Chicago, Motor Speedway, that is, New Hampshire, Suzuka, Kentucky, Homestead, Watkins Glen, Atlanta. Kentucky and Homestead, very tough to pass. Both tracks high line oriented for the most part. You really can't pass on the inside. Maybe can pass on the inside at Kentucky over in 1 and 2, but you cannot over in 3 and 4. Same deal for Homestead. So if you're expecting a lot of passing to take place, probably don't want those two particular racetracks. We're already going to Mid-Ohio as one of the 2 tracks. Maybe because of the fact that it is a slice the field type thing at both Mid-Ohio and Suzuka, probably should have both those tracks on the light schedule. So that way if you end up having some some drivers that normally would, which will be end up being the case, drivers that normally would be full-time in Duracell missing out, they can then just run the lights race that weekend. Kansas, is Kansas on the schedule? No, it is not actually. Kansas is not on the next gen Cup Series schedule. Uh, Possibly could put Kansas in during the same week as maybe Kentucky, because that's like a Midwest type thing, or Iowa. When the Cup cars are at Iowa, maybe have the lights cars at Kansas. Can put that in there. don't recall why Kansas was taken off the schedule. I think it was just because there were a lot of the mile-and-a-half tracks. You already had Las Vegas, you already had Chicagoland, you already had Homestead, you already had Kentucky. So I think that's why it ended up getting taken off, because there were a lot of the cookie cutter mile-and-a-halfs that were already there on the schedule. All right, so put Kansas in at slot 11. Could then put Suzuka in behind that. At 12, what I'm also going to do is I'm going to put, after each one of these, I'm going to put what race weekend number it should correlate with. So Daytona would obviously be with race number 1. Las Vegas would correlate with race number 3. North Wilkes would be with race number 6. Lucas Oil would be the week we're at Indianapolis, so that would be correlated with race number 7. I don't know what I just clicked there. Mid-Ohio would correlate with race number 8. Devil's Bowl would be when we're at Texas Motor Speedway, so that would be weekend number 9. And the Pepsi Superdome, or why do I keep saying Drome? Superdome would correlate with Coke Zero Super Speedway, so that would be race number 10. Charlotte would obviously be correlation with race number 14 at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Dover would be with race 16 at Dover. Armory Digital would be probably in correlation with M&M Super Speedway, since it would be 2 super speedways the same weekend. So that'd be race number 15, which actually means that Armory Digital has to move up to slot number 9. And then Dover moves down to race number 10. Alright, so Army Digital would be 15, Dover would be 16. Okay. Kansas would be in correlation with Iowa. So that would be weekend number 17. Suzuka would be the same week as Suzuka, so that would jump us to weekend number 20. We'll get the other ones here in a minute. So I'm going to fill in the ones that we already know. Bristol Dirt, weekend 25. Auto Club, weekend 26. Gateway, weekend 27. Nashville at weekend 29. No problem. Boston, weekend 33. It's a big jump of weeks and during the playoffs. And then Michigan, week 36. You got 3 weeks between the third to last race and the second to last race, and then you've got 3 weeks between the second to last race and the last race. But again, it's no playoffs, so it really doesn't matter. So between 2 races left between weekends 20 and 25, which right now would consist of Kentucky, Homestead, Watkins Glen, and Atlanta. We already have 2 road courses on the schedule with Mid-Ohio and Suzuka. I don't know if it's worth putting Watkins Glen on there as a third, especially since it would be in very close proximity to Suzuka East anyway. Atlanta usually brings about good racing, so I think Atlanta probably would go on the schedule, so we'll put that in right before Bristol Dirt. And that'd be weekend 24, I believe. Yes. So we have the last one, which would be Kentucky or Homestead or a different racetrack. and that would slide in at weekend 13. We have prior to it a road course at Suzuka, after it a mile and a half at Atlanta, and then the following week. So basically, it would be a mile and a half road course, blank, mile and a half short track, 2 miler. Let me look at the ARCA schedule, see what tracks they go to, and see if there's anything that jumps out at me as a track that maybe should get added on. So they go to Daytona, Phoenix, Talladega, Kansas, Charlotte, Berlin, Elko, Mid-Ohio, Iowa, Pocono, Michigan, Lucas Oil, Watkins Glen, Illinois State Fairgrounds or Springfield, Milwaukee Mile, DeCoin, Kansas, Bristol, Salem, and Toledo. Hmm. So Michigan we're already going to, Mid-Ohio we're already going to, Charlotte we're already going to, Kansas we're already going to, Daytona we're already going to, Phoenix is Uh, DeCoin and Springfield would have more than likely been considered. The problem with those two tracks, while the racing is good on the racetrack, when they come to pit road, there is something so weird about how the AI pull into their pit stalls. It is an Armco or a steel guardrail that separates the pit stalls from the infield, and when they pull in, they slide in to the guardrail, so they immediately have left side damage, and they sit on pit road for a long period of time getting that damage repaired. And there's no way to fix that, so that's why those two racetracks weren't even really up for consideration. Bristol, we're already going to the dirt version of. Milwaukee Mile, I don't know how that track particularly races. Iowa, we're going to Kansas in place of that. So we've got, looks like really only short tracks to choose from here. Toledo, Salem, Lucas Oil we're already going to, Elko, and Berlin. I don't know, and this is just because of me, but I don't know if they have. Oh yeah, I think they do. I'm pretty sure I've got the track. I wonder how many cars Stafford can hold. Yeah, I do have it. Okay, let's see. Obviously, we would want a night race. Does it hold at least the amount that we would need? Kind of thinking in my head at least 25 cars, just in case we end up having more people that sign up later on before we start. All right, let's see. Track holds 35. So 34 basically. Stafford was actually a really good race for the SRX. So you know what? We're gonna slot Stafford in there. Stafford Speedway. And we can have that during the Watkins Glen weekend because we're already up in the Northeast. Stafford being in Connecticut. So I would slide in at race weekend number 23. All right, cool. So we've got our schedule for the Duracell Ultralights series next season. Going to be Daytona, then Las Vegas, North Wilkesboro, Lucas Oil, Mid-Ohio Sports Course, Devil's Bowl Speedway in Texas, then Pepsi Superdrome to end off the first half of the regular season right prior to the All-Star break. Then it's the Charlotte Motor Speedway, Armory Digital Super Speedway, Dover, Kansas, Suzuka East Road Course, Stafford Speedway, the short track, Atlanta Motor Speedway, Bristol Dirt, Auto Club, then Gateway, Nashville Superspeedway, Boston International, and Michigan Speedway to determine the championship. So as of right now, the weekends, the split would be weekend number 1, then to weekend number 3, and then it's weekend 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 all in a row. After the All-Star break, we've got 14, 15, 16, 17 all in a row. Then we wait till weekend 20, then jump to weekends 23, 24, 25, 26, 27 all in a row. Then 2 weeks later, weekend 29. 4 weeks later, weekend 33. And 3 weeks later, weekend 36. Pretty good smattering of super speedways, road courses, mile and a halves, 2 miles, and short tracks in there. So I think that is a pretty good looking schedule. Again, the Dover one's going to be a little bit of a question mark. It may end up getting replaced. We'll have to wait and see. I got to do some testing with that one, but should have a pretty good, decent schedule there for that full season. All right, so project complete. Appreciate you helping me out there on that, Jack. Again, thank you for the track as well that you sent me in the Discord. I'm going to be doing some testing with that here this afternoon. And thanks to everybody that tuned into this podcast. That's going to do it here for this one. Again, this Sunday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, championship hangs in the balance. Who is going to be the Season 6 Duracell Next Gen Cup Series champion? Is it going to be Charles Sanford? Is it going to be Michael Norman? Is it going to be one of the 2 rookies, Jack Dunnard or Destin Bolin? You're going to have to wait and find out with the green flag flying at 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Sunday afternoon at the Michigan International Speedway. Again, as well, if you didn't hear, official start date for Season 7 of the Duracell Cup Series is going to be November the 10th. Saturday, November the 10th, I believe. No, Friday, actually, I believe it is. I believe it's on a Friday. Let me double check. Yeah, Friday, November the 10th is when the new season will start in preparation for the Clash weekend at the debuting Slinger Speedway before we head to Daytona for Daytona 500 weekend. Thanks again to everybody that tuned into this podcast. Hope you guys enjoyed it. We're going to have a final podcast after the championship is decided. That'll be next week sometime, either on Tuesday or Wednesday probably. Be sure to tune in for that, and then we'll have some occasional news outlets during the course of the final half of September and the month of October in preparation for the upcoming 7th season of Duracell Next Gen Cup Series, as well as the first season of the Duracell Ultra Light Series. But until next time, hope you guys have a great rest of your day. I'm out.